What if everything you've believed about her feelings is wrong? Have you ever found yourself replaying moments in your mind? Moments that feel small, almost insignificant, but leave your heart racing. Maybe she laughed a little too long at something you said, or sent a text that made you pause, wondering if it meant more than it seemed. And yet, you dismiss it. You tell yourself, she could never feel that way about me. You've convinced yourself that you're just a friend, that no matter what you do, she doesn't see you the way you see her. Here's the thing, that assumption is exactly what's keeping you in the dark. It's not just a thought, it's a lens that filters out all the signs she's been leaving for you. Those friendship signals you notice, they might actually be hidden invitations, whispers of attraction carefully masked by her caution. You see, women don't always make their attraction obvious. Society has trained them to be careful, to protect themselves, to hide their desire. So while your mind is searching for bold gestures, a touch, a flirt, a confession, she's communicating in subtle, almost invisible ways. And if you can't see them, you'll stay stuck believing the lie your mind tells you every day. But imagine if you could start noticing these signals. What if every laugh, glance, or text carried a hidden meaning you suddenly understood? Imagine seeing her energy shift when she's around you compared to everyone else. Those little moments that once seemed random would suddenly become clear, deliberate, and unmistakable. You'd realize that she's been giving you clues all along, and that your role in her mind is far more than just a friend. Here's a secret most men never hear. Attraction is rarely a grand, obvious gesture. It's quiet. It's subtle. It's woven into the way she moves, the way she laughs, the way she reacts to your presence. It's in the micro-signals that most men overlook because they're too busy convincing themselves it's impossible. By the end of this video, you won't just start noticing these signals, you'll understand them on a deeper level, the kind of understanding that shifts a friendship into magnetic attraction. And once you do, the dynamic changes entirely. The way she interacts with you, the way she looks at you, even the way she thinks about you. Everything begins to reveal a pattern that's been there all along, waiting for you to see it. So before we go any further, take a moment to let this sink in. The friend you think you know might not exist the way you've imagined. Behind that laughter, those teasing words, those casual gestures, there could be a quiet, burning curiosity, a pull toward you that you've been blind to until now. What if everything you've believed about her feelings is wrong? Have you noticed the little things you've been ignoring? Think back to the moments you've shared with her, the casual conversations, the playful teasing, the times she looked at you in a way that made your chest tighten without any words being exchanged. Did you brush them off as coincidence? As friendliness? That's exactly what most men do. Here's the truth. Women are subtle by design. Society teaches them to protect their hearts, to measure the ground before stepping into emotional territory. So the signals you're waiting for, the obvious flirting, the bold gestures, they're rarely going to come. Instead, she communicates through whispers, a lingering glance, a slightly longer laugh, a touch that feels accidental but carries intention. And it's not just body language. Pay attention to her timing. Does she text when she knows you're busy just to check in? Does she remember small details you thought she would forget? These are coded signals, and every one of them is designed to test your awareness, your confidence, your ability to notice without overreacting. Here's the catch. Your brain is wired to ignore these subtleties. You're conditioned to search for the obvious, the easily interpreted cues, and dismiss the rest. That's why so many men stay in the friend zone. They miss what's right in front of them. But if you learn to tune in, if you start seeing these whispers as what they truly are, mini invitations into her mind and her heart, the game changes entirely. Suddenly, the casual touch isn't just friendly, the teasing isn't just playful, the long glance isn't just a look. These are signs of attraction hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone awake enough to notice. And here's the most powerful part. The moment you begin to decode these whispers, you stop chasing her attention and start magnetically drawing it in. She begins to respond differently because you've shifted the dynamic without a single word. You're no longer just a friend. You're becoming someone she's quietly, subconsciously drawn to. These subtle whispers aren't mistakes, they're signals. And understanding them leads us to the real problem most men face, the friend zone myth. Have you noticed the little things you've been ignoring? Your mind might be playing the cruelest trick on you. The friend zone is not real in the way you think. It's a mental construct, a story your mind tells itself to explain why attraction hasn't been obvious. You tell yourself, she's just being nice, or she could never see me that way. And with each thought, you reinforce the pattern. But here's what almost no one tells you. She might actually be attracted to you, and the very behaviors you interpret as friendliness are her way of testing your presence, confidence, and emotional stability. Think about it. Why would she tease you? Why would she joke in ways that feel personal? Why would she subtly challenge you or push boundaries? It's not rejection. It's a test of how you handle attraction without panic, without neediness, without losing your center. Most men fail here because they're looking for permission, proof, or certainty. They overanalyze a text, overthink a glance, or chase attention that's already been given subtly. But if you can step back, observe without desperation, and respond with calm confidence, the dynamic flips entirely. The friend zone isn't a trap. It's a stage of potential, a testing ground where subtle cues and emotional signals quietly determine whether attraction will grow or stagnate. Understanding this is critical because it reframes every interaction. Suddenly, the laughter, teasing, and attention aren't confusing. They're deliberate. They're a map of her desire if you're paying attention. And here's the key. Once you internalize that the friend zone is a myth, you start seeing the patterns, not the surface-level gestures. You notice the moments where she seeks your energy, mirrors your behavior, or subtly creates tension. You begin to realize that attraction doesn't announce itself loudly. It breathes in the details you've been missing. Now that you understand why the friend zone isn't what it seems, it's time to uncover the hidden patterns of desire she's been showing you all along. Your mind might be playing the cruelest trick on you. She's been testing you in ways you've never realized. Have you ever noticed that some women seem to behave differently around you compared to everyone else? Maybe she's more playful, more teasing, or somehow warmer in her energy, but when you look at her interactions with others, she seems distant, guarded, even indifferent. That difference isn't an accident. That subtle distinction is a hidden pattern of desire, a psychological fingerprint of attraction that most men completely miss. Here's the truth. Women communicate attraction in layers. There's the surface layer, the laughs, the casual touches, the jokes, and then there's the hidden layer, emotional mirroring, subtle tests, and unconscious cues that reveal how they feel on a deeper level. For example, have you noticed how she unconsciously mirrors your movements or tone? You lean in slightly, and she leans in too. You laugh a little louder, and she echoes it. These behaviors aren't random. They're a subtle psychological reflection of connection and interest. When someone mirrors your energy, it's their mind signaling, I'm tuned into you. I feel drawn to you. Then there's the push-pull dynamic, which many men interpret as confusion or rejection. One day she's warm and engaging, the next day she seems distant. That isn't inconsistency, it's emotional testing. She's observing how you respond under subtle tension. Can you maintain your calm? Can you remain confident and present without chasing? Most men fail this test because they interpret it as a challenge to their value. They panic, over-explain, or try to prove themselves. But attraction works differently. Subtle tension is a magnifying glass for emotional presence. If you can navigate it gracefully, you don't just survive the test, you become magnetically attractive. Another layer men often miss is her attention and memory for details. She remembers small things you mentioned in passing, your favorite snack, a random story, or an offhand comment. To you, it may seem trivial. To her, it's a signal of investment, an unconscious way of showing she's listening, she's present, and she cares, without ever saying it outright. Even the way she talks about other men can be revealing. Casual mentions of someone else? That's not jealousy in the negative sense. It's a subtle gauge of your emotional stability. She wants to see if you're grounded enough to remain confident and composed without insecurity creeping in. How you respond here sets the tone for whether you remain just a friend or step into a more magnetic role. Notice the timing of her attention as well. A text that comes when you weren't expecting it, a smile that lingers a fraction longer. These micro moments are encoded signals of attraction. They're easy to miss, easy to rationalize away, but they're consistent, and once you begin to recognize them, a pattern emerges. That pattern reveals the truth. She's not indifferent. She's interested, curious, and testing the waters without openly saying it. The challenge, of course, is that these patterns are subtle and layered. They're almost invisible unless you know what to look for, and most men never do. But when you start noticing, truly observing, and interpreting these cues correctly, the friend zone dissolves. Suddenly, you're no longer just a companion. You become someone she's subconsciously drawn to, intrigued by, and emotionally invested in, even if she hasn't admitted it consciously. This is where the game changes. Hidden patterns of desire aren't about manipulation, they're about awareness. When you understand her subtle tests, her mirroring, her attention, and her small but deliberate signals, you begin responding in a way that naturally amplifies attraction. It's no longer a guessing game, it's a conversation between your presence and her interest, conducted in a language most men never even recognize. Transition. Now that you know these hidden patterns exist, it's time to decode one of the most confusing signals of all, the push-pull and emotional testing she uses to gauge your confidence. She's not confused, she's testing you, and most men never notice. Have you ever felt it? That subtle tension when you're around her, the one that makes your chest tighten, your mind race, and your confidence wobble? One moment she's warm, laughing, leaning into the conversation. The next, she seems distant, reserved, or even slightly challenging. If you felt this, you're not imagining it. This is the emotional testing ground, and it's a stage most men completely misread. Here's the truth. Women use these subtle push-pull dynamics to measure emotional stability, confidence, and presence. It's not cruelty. It's not manipulation in the negative sense. It's a way to gauge if you can handle desire and attention without panic or neediness. Think about her teasing you or joking about your flaws. You might feel defensive or unsure how to respond, but that moment isn't rejection. It's a window into how she perceives your energy. Does she see you as grounded and confident, or anxious and reactive? Or consider her small contradictions. She may act distant one moment, warm the next. She might flirt, then step back. These are not inconsistencies. They're tests of your composure, curiosity, and subtle confidence. Women naturally create tension in these ways because attraction is amplified by emotional nuance, not blunt gestures. Another common test is attention and proximity. Maybe she leans slightly closer than necessary, touches your arm lightly, or positions herself where she can subtly observe your reactions. To you, these actions may seem accidental. To her, they're deliberate, unconscious measures of your presence and stability. Then there's the digital test, texts, messages, or social media interactions that are ambiguous enough to make you question her intentions. A late-night message, a delayed reply, playful teasing, or comments that provoke curiosity are all signals designed to observe your emotional response. How you react here determines whether you appear magnetic or insecure. Here's the key insight. The men who fail this stage are the ones who overanalyze, chase, or try to prove themselves. The men who succeed are those who remain grounded, calm, and slightly unpredictable. They respond with curiosity and subtle confidence, allowing tension to exist without collapsing into neediness. Emotional testing is not about her rejecting you. It's about her assessing whether your presence aligns with her emotional world. If you navigate it successfully, the push-pull dynamic flips, tension becomes attraction, subtle challenges become opportunities, and uncertainty transforms into magnetic connection. Even her small gestures, like remembering a detail you mentioned once, a lingering glance, or a quiet acknowledgement of your presence, are part of this emotional testing. She's scanning for someone who can hold space for her energy without losing composure. Every micro-interaction is a clue. Every subtle test is a chance to demonstrate confidence, stability, and magnetism. Here's the paradox most men miss. The more you chase clarity or attempt to decode her actions explicitly, the weaker your presence becomes. But if you stay present, confident, and curious, you speak her subconscious language. You communicate emotional stability without a single word. That's the invisible power most men overlook. By mastering this stage, you step into a new reality. The friend zone no longer exists as a limit. Instead, it becomes a proving ground for attraction, where every glance, every tease, and every subtle challenge is an opportunity to become magnetic in her mind and her heart. Now that you understand the emotional testing ground, the next step is mastering presence, response, and emotional resonance, where attraction solidifies and desire deepens. This is where most men fail, and where you can rise above effortlessly. You've seen the whispers, the hidden cues, the push-pull tension. You've observed the subtle gestures, the teasing, and the attention that isn't quite overt. Now comes the moment that determines everything: how you respond. The truth is simple but profound. Presence is more powerful than action. Women are drawn less to what you do and more to how you exist in her energy. She's scanning for emotional stability, confidence, and subtle unpredictability, the qualities that make a man magnetic. Here's the key. Your response should never come from desperation, neediness, or a desire to prove yourself. Instead, it should come from curiosity, calm confidence, and awareness. Think of it as a conversation between your energy and hers, a dance that doesn't need words to be understood. For example, when she tests you with teasing or contradictions, your job isn't to argue or explain. It's to acknowledge, respond lightly, and maintain your composure. A simple, confident smile, a playful remark, or a calm acknowledgement of her energy can flip the interaction from tension to attraction instantly. Even when she creates emotional ambiguity, texts that are teasing or delayed, or moments where she seems distant, your response should reinforce stability, presence, and magnetic curiosity. You don't chase clarity. You let her attention be drawn to your grounded energy. That's the invisible pull most men fail to create. Another critical element is mirroring her energy, but with intention. If she's playful, tease back with light humor. If she's introspective, listen attentively and respond thoughtfully. Subtly echoing her emotional state shows connection without desperation. It communicates, "I'm in tune with you, but I'm not defined by your moods." Small gestures matter more than grand declarations. A lingering glance, a carefully timed smile, a subtle touch that feels natural. All of these signal presence and emotional alignment. The more you practice noticing, the more naturally your responses will amplify attraction. Then there's the power of subtle unpredictability. Consistency in your confidence, curiosity, and calm energy builds trust. But occasional light surprises, like shifting the tone of conversation or playfully challenging her perspective, create excitement. Women respond to a balance of stability and intrigue. Too predictable, and attention wanes. Too erratic, and tension becomes insecurity. The mastery is finding the magnetic balance. Finally, emotional resonance is crucial. She's looking for someone who can hold her energy without being overwhelmed. That means absorbing subtle tension, playful challenges, or curiosity-driven tests without losing your composure. When you succeed, you become the center of her attention without needing to command it, and attraction grows organically. Here's the ultimate takeaway. You don't need to chase or prove yourself. Every glance, every playful tease, every subtle test she presents is an invitation to demonstrate confidence, presence, and emotional mastery. When you respond correctly, you step out of the friend zone, not by force, but by naturally becoming someone she's drawn to on a subconscious level. Now that you've mastered presence and response, it's time to see how these principles combine to create magnetic attraction, turning friendship into desire and subtle interest into deep emotional engagement. This is the moment most men never reach, the invisible edge where friendship transforms into irresistible desire. By now, you've learned to notice the hidden signals, decode the subtle tests, and master your presence in her energy. But understanding is only half the battle. The next step is activating that awareness to create magnetic attraction, the kind of pull she feels in her subconscious before she even realizes it. Imagine this. She laughs at your joke, and you notice the way her eyes linger a fraction longer. She leans in just slightly, as if drawn toward your presence. You respond, not with desperation, but with calm acknowledgement, a small smile, and steady energy. That moment, seemingly ordinary, becomes electric. That is magnetic attraction in action. Women don't fall in love with grand gestures or words alone. They respond to emotional presence, confidence, and consistency in energy. She's scanning every glance, every micro-expression, every pause in your conversation to see if your presence aligns with her subconscious desire. When you hold space for her energy without needing validation, you become compelling, irresistible, and deeply magnetic. Then there's the power of subtle emotional elevation. A conversation that goes deeper than surface level, a laugh that feels genuine, a shared moment that sparks curiosity. These are tiny but potent ways to imprint desire into her subconscious. Women remember feelings far longer than words. Every interaction that creates excitement, curiosity, or intrigue subtly shifts her perception of you from friend to someone she wants, wonders about, and craves. Another crucial factor is emotional alignment. She's drawn to men who can match or complement her emotional state without being overwhelmed. Playful? Match her lightness with confident humor. Thoughtful? Meet her introspection with calm presence. Emotional resonance amplifies attraction, creating a magnetic connection that doesn't need overt declarations. Even small unconscious behaviors, like remembering a detail you mentioned once, checking in subtly, or positioning herself closer than necessary, signal that she's emotionally invested. These are not gestures of mere friendship. They're the invisible threads of desire weaving around you, waiting for your energy to acknowledge and respond to them. Here's the final truth most men never grasp. Attraction is less about what you do and more about who you are when you're present with her. She's not looking for someone to impress her with words, gifts, or actions. She's looking for someone whose energy is stable, confident, and emotionally magnetic, a man who exists fully in his presence and invites her into his orbit without force. When you combine everything, the hidden cues, emotional testing, mastery of presence, and subtle emotional resonance, you step into a new dynamic. The friend zone disappears, replaced by curiosity, desire, and deep emotional engagement. She begins to see you differently. She notices nuances in your behavior she previously overlooked. Her subconscious attention shifts from casual familiarity to focused magnetic interest. And here's the kicker. Once you master this, attraction grows naturally. You no longer need to chase or seek validation. She feels drawn to you effortlessly because your presence communicates exactly what words cannot: confidence, curiosity, and emotional depth. That invisible pull, the tension she can't explain, is the hallmark of magnetic desire. Finally, remember this: subtlety is your greatest weapon. Grand gestures can overwhelm, overeagerness can repel. The real magic lies in quiet confidence, emotional awareness, and presence mastery. She doesn't need you to tell her she's desired. She already is. Your job is to embody the energy that amplifies that attraction, allowing her curiosity and desire to grow organically. Closing. Reflection. Take a moment and imagine how different your interactions could feel once you see all of this clearly. Every glance, laugh, tease, and text becomes a doorway to attraction rather than a source of confusion. You're no longer guessing. You're no longer stuck. You're stepping fully into a space of magnetic presence where friendship transforms quietly, powerfully, and irresistibly into desire. The hidden attraction has always been there. Now you finally know how to see it, respond to it, and allow it to flourish. That is the invisible edge. That is the moment where she begins to notice you in ways you never imagined, and where you step into the man she's secretly drawn to.